Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Nate G. We are going to do a quick 5-minute lesson on Fibonacci retracements and extensions. So the first one here is on a meta chart. And if we want to find out what a target would be, meta's at a high here. I'm pretty sure it's an all-time high, but I'm not going to go back and talk about it. Like, we don't have any VP up above. We don't have any targets. So what we do in this case is we use our fib tool here. It's called the fib retracement, which is interesting because the fib extension, it's counterintuitive in the way they're named. But when we want to find out a good target, we're going to measure from the high to the low using our fib. So you could do it to this pullback, or you could even go to this further pullback. Okay, so from the high to the low, and you'll see that I have a 100% mark. We have, a 50% mark in here, a 38, these are all fib numbers, 618. But what we're looking at is the extension to the 1272, right? So we would mark the 1272. And in really trending markets, we can even mark the 1618, right? And I'm going to make both of those green just so we can see what I'm talking about. So those and then once we delete that, you don't need that on your chart anymore. Now you've got that full retracement, and now you have targets above that high if you're playing this 78-minute squeeze that give you the 1272 and the 1618 extensions for potential targets, right? And you find the 2 points. It's a good question, Roswell. Basically, let me replay this here so I can get you back to what is happening right now. Oh, that's weird. Let me try going back to replay to here. Okay, so this is when we picked up meta, right? And so we're looking at meta here on a 78-minute chart. That's a beautiful TPS setup, right? You can see the trend that we have running here, right? You can see the squeeze, the A plus setup, right? We don't have to go through all of that because we understand it. But then we're like, okay, well, here's our high. I'll put the high in yellow just so we can understand. And we say, okay, well, there's our high. So that could be a target number one. But where are some extension targets above this sort of all-time high level, right? And that's when we use the fib extension, and we measure from the high to the low of the pattern that we're in, right? And so in this is the pullback and consolidation around that. So you could choose to go from the wick high there to the wick low of this 4 candles down, or you could even extend it out over here to this one wick down. It's not going to change too dramatically. And then you've got your marks in above that. Now, if you don't have this set correctly, I can show you what that will look like. So let's remove all the drawings. Let's move this to the side. So when you put this in, it's going to give you, a 100% retracement. It's going to give you a 50% retracement, and you can change all of these settings. Here is how I have my settings for this. Okay, if you'd like to take a screenshot, you can. I have all of these extra ones turned off. And in fact, if you're just wanting to use this for extensions, you can turn off everything but the 0 and the 1 here on the left-hand side. You don't need these other ones in here, the 382 and the 618. And then you probably want a 50%. You can turn off the 78, but then you want to keep your 1272 and 1618 so that when you do that pattern, you know where those two extensions are from 0 to 100%, right? You could even turn off the 50% if you don't want it. So if you turned off all of those, that the chart, the indicator ends up looking like that. right? So when you put it on your chart to measure the extension target, you're just measuring the top to the bottom, and then you're given your two lines above that, 1272 and 1618. Okay. Now, if you want to use this differently, this same tool, you could, let's go to a name like, I don't know, not that. I want TI, Tiger. Okay, so we're looking at Tiger here that had a massive run up, right? Let me get rid of these lines here. And then, it's pulling back. And so if we went to this fib retracement settings, right? And I went, okay, we pretty much started our run up here, right? And then we pulled back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add back in those things that I had a second ago. I'm going to add the 312, the 618, and the 5, right? And then I come back in here, and as you can see, I've measured this run up, right? And my extensions now are below me, right? Because I measured a run up, and now I want to see what that retracement might look like. I could flip it if I want to, and I'd still get some levels. But as you can see, this 382, this 50% retracement, that's measuring, 50% of this whole move is right here, right? And so as these things pull back, that's another way you can use fib. The 618, that's where we're holding support here at the 618. And so if you start to read those books on, Fibonacci and how to use it, you can so many times a retracement of a big move will stop at the 618 and rebound, right? And so or the 50% retracement. That's always a good one to have on your chart too. So that's kind of the two ways you can use that tool, right? The other one is this trend-based fib extension, okay? And the way I have that set up is, if we go to your settings, I basically have the 0 and the 1. And that's all it is, because if I'm measuring, let me go to, I don't know, let's try Costco, right? Okay, so if I want to figure out, let me get rid of all my drawings. Okay, so if we're getting a pullback like we are today, that wasn't the straightest of lines, right? If we're getting a pullback and we're going, okay, how far do I think that pullback is going to go before I'm going to see some sort of a bounce? Well, what you can do is measure a previous pullback, right? And compare that level to this pullback. And they tend to pull back in the same amounts, right? So you could do that by going, okay, this is 924 and it pulls back to 895, so that's 29 points. So then if I'm going from 910 to, I think it's going to come back into, you could do the math that way. But you could also use this trend-based fib extension, and you measure high to low of the initial move, and then you come over and you put your cursor at the high of the previous move, and you say, okay, well, that could be a bounce area. Let's see if there's some other ones that could possibly, be a retracement move. And what you'll find is we can then measure this one here, right? There's a pull move, and then measured there. Okay, so we've got two lines where we think, and what you'll see is you'll get a cluster of them together. Maybe Costco's not the best example. But this even works on, like a daily type chart, where you can measure moves and then take shots against it. Like, let me see if I can find one that's, so here's a pullback move, and then, here's a pullback move. Okay, so if I go to like the 78-minute chart, right, you can see the one I measured, if this will load in fast. Okay, what's wrong with my charts? Right, so I measured this move right here, and then I went up to this high as it was pulling back, and I measured, where could that, oh look, it did stop right there. You see that? Now, obviously, we're doing this in hindsight, so, I can find levels and go, oh yeah, let's see if I can find another level that maybe would be about the same length. But you can also do this in a forward-thinking fashion, and kind of project where you might find, bounce levels. Does that make sense? David, why the 78-minute chart? Because that's the chart I'm taking the trade on. And so I'm going to measure it on a 78-minute chart. Brian, why does this work? Human psychology. I mean, they're mathematical levels, but other people are using them. And so if you look at something like, I mean, it's essentially human psychology. And all, algos and stuff that will say start buying at a 618 retracement, that sort of a thing. It's just human psychology. And because, so, why does the 21 EMA work as a bounce level? Because other people are taking shots at that level, right? And so if enough people are doing a similar thing, the market's going to bounce there. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah, fibs work on all time frames. Yep. And I highly recommend reading that fib book. That I don't know why I'm drawing the blank on the name of it, Fibonacci Trading or something along that line. It's a really good book. I can't quite remember it. I'll have to look it up. Do I have the growth mindset? Yeah, I think I have a growth mindset. What is Oracle Fib chart 0? I guess I'm not understanding your question, but I'll check out the Oracle chart. I already had some fibs on there. So what were you asking here? Yeah, the Fibonacci pattern in nature is pretty fascinating. Oracle Fib day chart 531. All right, let's go. Let's get rid of my drawings. $531, that low there. And open at 612. That low to this high, I'm guessing. Okay. So do an extension, low to high, and then where are we measuring again? Somewhere up here. From that low to that high on that move, is that what you're measuring? I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. There it is. Fibonacci trading, how to master time and price advantage. It's fascinating, and it's sometimes you'll see us or Nate, oh, stock's pulling back. Well, let's see if we can find a level to take a shot at, and then we find a level where there's like a cluster of symmetry, and then we take a shot and it bounces right off of that level. And as you get to know it more, you'll also find that that symmetry level also incidentally lines up with a a volume profile level, and then you're in good shape. So when all those things combine, you've got some fib levels, you've got a VP level, and the market is coming into that, then that's like, yes, please, I'll take that with both hands. So does that help, Fog, and anybody else that had that question on how to use those Fibonacci's? There's fib extensions and fib retracements. Okay, that was it. I just was here and I thought I could do that on the mic. And you'll have to adjust your tools to fit this trend-based extension tool. You have to adjust it so that it's giving you exactly what you want. Because you could you could come in here and turn on all this stuff, and it probably starts that way, and then it's like, oh God, like what am I looking at, right? And for most of us that trade this way, we just want to know what the 100% retracement matchup looks like. Okay, I will post that up for anybody else who wants a little help with the fibs, and talk to y'all later.